So you got ghosted. Don't worry, it happens to the best of us. With the number of options women have, it seems like you have to do everything perfectly in order to keep her around. One small ick and you're never gonna see her again. And if this hasn't happened to you yet, trust me, it will. That's why in this video, we're gonna talk about what to do when a woman ghosts you, but first you must know why they do it in the first place. But before we get into that, you guys must understand the difference between ghosting and a pullback. A pullback is when you've been dating a woman over the course of a few months, and then slowly over time, she retracts her attention from you, she stops texting you, you stop going out on dates, then it slowly leads to nothing. Ghosting usually happens within the first part of the courtship, so either before you meet her or literally after the first date. And with me and my digital Romeo mentorship, teaching students on a weekly basis, I see this happen all the time. And we're gonna actually break it down from the front end perspective and a back end perspective so that you can see what you're doing wrong, and then from there, how to fix it moving forward. Starting first with the front end game. So this is before you sleep with her, before you actually go out on a first date with her. These are the top 3 reasons why I see women ghosting men. Number 1 is that you're taking way too long to set up the date. Guys, whenever you're setting up the date with a woman and you're meeting her, either you got her phone number or Instagram, or maybe you're talking to her on a dating app, I always see just guys engaging in these very, very long conversations that are kind of leading nowhere. Like, you gotta ask yourself, what is the purpose of texting, especially at this initial interaction? Is it to be a texting buddy, text back and forth? Though they might enjoy that over the course of some time, for the most part, you have to have a plan of action behind your texting. And that's why I like to follow my dating funnel rules, in which I've been talking about this for years now, is to basically give yourself a minimum amount of text that you need to send before you tell yourself, I need to set up this date. For me, it was between 3 and 10 messages. At that point in time, I told myself like, hey, I need to actually push this forward, set up the date so that I don't bore her out. And then from there, she doesn't ghost me, because a woman, even if she's interested in you, will engage in conversation. But if you're taking forever to set up a date and she doesn't have the guts or the will and leadership, which most women don't, to actually do it for you, then chances are she's just gonna stop replying to you. Now, another thing, and this goes on the opposite end of the spectrum, is that you're actually setting up the date too fast. A guy who I'm actually working on his text game with, he sent me one of his texts, and I noticed literally the second message he's saying like, what is your schedule like? What are you up to this weekend? I'm like, bro, like slow it down for a minute. Like, that can work for very, very high interest women. It has worked before, but for the most part, you're gonna have to build a little bit of rapport and get a little bit of investment before you actually go to set up the date, all right? So remember that you always wanna find the perfect balance, never too fast, but also not too long. Now, the second big reason why women ghost, especially at the front part, the front end game, is the fact that you just revealed too much mystery too fast. This is especially true once you've set the date and she has agreed. Remember guys, if you have set the date and she has agreed, cease texting from there. Even if she wants to keep texting you, trust me, you are digging yourself down a hole, and she might flake on you and she might actually ghost you because you're just revealing too much mystery about yourself too soon. And remember, a lot more can go wrong than can go right. So after the date is set, let her know, hey, we'll speak more in person. I don't want to kill the mystery. We'll continue this conversation in person. Then from there, I'm sure she will respect that and then agree with you. Now, the third reason why women ghost men, especially at the front part of the game, is just for the simple fact that your text game is horrible. You're either way too sexual, you're boring, just like you have no charisma through the text. And I understand it's hard, it's difficult, and it's definitely a skill that I believe most guys should learn, because in this digital age, guys, if you want to get good with women and attract a lot of women, your text game doesn't have to be like very dancing monkey, like always telling jokes and trying to be humorous and funny, but for the most part, you gotta convey like a sexual undertone, flirtiness, charisma, be interesting. It's tough as a man, guys, I know, because we're supposed to lead and pretty much start the conversation, whereas sometimes it just feels like the girls are just replying and they're not trying to start any conversation from us. But I promise you, if your text game gets a lot better, just holistically overall, then that will just make the ghosting and the flaking a lot less. Trust me, I've seen it in my own life. Whereas before, I'm looking back at some of my old messages, and I've actually done a whole YouTube video on this, and they were just cringy, too validating, too boring sometimes. Like, I made all the mistakes, and that's why you guys shouldn't make these mistakes either. Now you guys know why women ghost you at the front end of the game. Now this is how you act if she does. Now remember the mistakes we talked about. You're taking too long to set up the date, maybe you're boring. I believe the best way to go about this, if she does ghost you, and keep in mind, this involves having low to no ego. So if you're anything like me, where you got a bit of an ego and you're like, man, I'm not double texting this girl, then by all means, don't do this, right? Just move on to the next girl. That definitely can work out. But I understand that a lot of you guys are not in as much abundance as me. You're not running a lot of volume like I have. So with that being said, you might have to learn a little bit amount of persistence game. And the best way you can do this in this scenario is to simply just shoot the Hail Mary and just ask her out. You can say, what you got going on so-and-so night? I got something planned for us. That's a simple text you can send just to see, just as a follow-up, just as a little persistence. Then maybe she might reply to that and you guys can take it from there. Remember, this is in the context of you're taking too long to set up the date, you're boring her out, maybe your text game is bad. This is what you can do. Now, the next thing you should do is definitely retract your attention. I've noticed a lot of you guys, whenever you're talking to a girl, trying to go out on a date with her, whatever, you're probably already following her on Instagram, which I don't believe you should do, but I know a lot of you guys do it. You're probably checking her stories. You got her somewhere else other than the platform you're messaging her on. If that's the case, retract your attention all the way, stop checking her stories. I would say even unfollow her, remove her as a follower, whatever you have to do to make her earn that attention back and to let her know like, hey, I'm not gonna be your texting buddy. I'm not gonna be just a social media orbiter. Unfriend her off Snapchat. I know a lot of you young guys be adding girls on Snapchat and then it goes nowhere from there. Trust me, I made this mistake too in the past. And what I always did, just simply remove them as a Snapchat follower, or at the least just hide their stories. Are you tired of getting on dating apps and not getting the results that you want? Or does your Instagram look like a 2013 archive? If so, then listen up. Every man wants to be high value, but nobody is willing to put in the work, or they're just overwhelmed with all the information they have out there. This is exactly why I created my Digital Romeo mentorship. This is a 12-week mentorship where I take you through the exact processes that I use for myself to level up my dating life, online image, and status. Not only are you gonna learn how to make yourself more attractive, but I'll teach you how to represent that in an online image so that you can then leverage for more dating and financial success. I'll also show you how to build social status so that you can network better online. At the same time, building out your dating funnel so that you attract women on autopilot. If you let me guide you, I promise you, you'll have no choice but to succeed. We don't work with everybody, but you may be a good fit. If so, click the link down below this video for a free one-on-one consultation. Hope to speak to you soon. Back to the video. So we talked about the front end game. Now let's talk about the back end game. Back end game is either you've been on one first date or you've actually have slept with the girl at least 1 or 2 times. These are the biggest reasons why women ghost men within this phase of dating. First one is that you're taking too long to escalate. Once again, taking too long to set up the date. Now you're taking too long to escalate, man. Point is, you guys gotta remember, you always have to lead and push the threshold forward. I know it sounds crazy that like, why would a girl ghost me if I'm being a gentleman, not escalating, taking things slow? But I'm telling you, man, it shows a lack of confidence. It shows that you're probably not that into her. I missed out on quite a handful of girls from the fact that I couldn't escalate. And I've been in crazy positions, guys. No pun intended, but I've had a girl literally stay the night in my bed. I kid you not, stay the night in my bed, and I was too scared to escalate. Guys, like, I am ashamed to say this, and I never saw her again. Now, keep in mind, this was years ago. This is definitely nothing recent, but years ago, guys. And looking back on it, I'm like, man, like, I'm such an idiot because I figured, like, if we're in this position, she should at least make some moves on me, like meet me in the middle. But some girls, if they're shy, trust me, they're not even gonna meet you in the middle. Their body language is off. That's why you as a guy, you gotta be a little aggressive in some cases, like consensually aggressive in order to push that forward. But point is, if you take too long, then that can lead to a girl ghosting you. Trust me, it's happened to me. Now, another reason is the fact simply that your sex game was bad. Just like your text game was bad on the front end, and now your sex game is bad. Women ghost men all the time where the sex was whack, they didn't enjoy it. So that's why, as a man, there's a lot of moving parts to the game, guys. It's not just the front end, it's just not texting, it's not just how you are on a date, it's not just conversations, but it's actually your stroke game too, man. And I made a lot of videos, well, not a lot, but a handful of videos on maximizing your stroke game, because you know, through practice you can actually get fairly good at it, but you might need to work on that and view yourself, be realistic with yourself. Like, did I do a good job? This is where we get deeper into like performance anxiety, or the fact that some of you guys just have premature ejaculation. Like, there's so many areas of struggle here, but you always want to make sure that every section and part of your game is at least 8 out of 10 B at the minimum. Now, the last reason why women go spin within this particular phase is the fact that you probably chased her after you had sex. Here's a rule of thumb, guys, is that after you have sex with a woman, she should do somewhat of the pursuing, like something. She should reach out to you, basically is what I'm saying, after you have sex with her. If you had sex with a woman and you're now reaching out to her, kind of chasing her even harder than you did before you set the date with her, then that shows a sign of weakness, shows you're probably not a select man, probably a sign that she can do better than you, because in her head, you know, all the guys who I really wanted, they probably didn't reach out to her after sex, right? And that will actually show you the signs of a good, genuine woman too. Deeper beyond just this ghosting stuff, it's the fact that if a woman reaches out to you after sex, that shows a feminine, genuine, high interest, probably low body count woman. Because on the opposite end, if a woman has a high body count, she's very masculine, she probably only viewed you as a sex object anyway, she probably won't reach out to you after sex. Anytime I've had sex with a woman and she was like feminine, like actually a good woman, they always reach out after sex in some degree. In some cases, even plan the next few dates or the next date to see me again. Now, once again, how do we act if she goes within these scenarios? So if you're taking too long to escalate, what I would do is to actually plan the next date, invite her over your place to cook dinner, or at least in a private environment where you can get intimate to some degree. Because a lot of you guys don't only physically escalate, but you also don't environmentally escalate. Every date you're planning, you're going out to somewhere public, a bar, you need to eventually, as the dates progress, move towards more intimate environments. That's why also about the third date, second date even, depending on her interest, I always invite a girl over to my place to cook, have some wine, talk, something like that. Because at that point in time, she should be comfortable enough to be in an intimate area and environment with you, and that will allow you to escalate things further. But if you're going on these arcade dates, bowling dates, restaurant dates, for dates 4, 5, 6, and you're not doing nothing, like, my friend, that is a friendship. That is a platonic friendship. You hugging her when you see her and hugging her goodbye, that does not count as an actual romantic relationship. And for that reason, that's why a lot of women actually get turned off. Now, I know I've spoken a lot about strategies and what to do under certain contexts, front end game, back end game, but here's the truth. If a woman ghosts you, just simply hold your ground, bro. Respect yourself. Hold your ground. Don't chase her unless you know you did something wrong within these phases. For example, you probably took too long to escalate or something like that. But for the most part, what I recommend overall under any context is to simply just hold ground. And if she does come back, that's great. If she doesn't, move on to the next, man. Like a lot of this stuff, you just gotta simply charge it to the game, man. Whenever you start to date a lot of women, you'll start to realize that a lot of them are just temporary. I don't even save numbers anymore, bro. Like a lot of these women just simply are temporary, because you already know if she don't ghost you, you're probably gonna do it. Like, dating is hard for both genders, man. So with that being said, hold ground, respect yourself. Don't be too invasive and trying to understand why she goes to you. You never know, right? She could also be dealing with somebody from her past that came back in her life, or, you know, she's dating multiple people. She likes this guy more. There's so many reasons why. And trying to like decipher why the reason she goes to you, by the time you do all that, like you could have just saw another girl. You could have just went on another date with another girl who was probably more hotter and higher interest than her. Now keep in mind, if she does come back, best believe, business meetings only, my friend. Don't take this girl seriously. That's one thing I will never do. If a woman ghosts you over a certain period of time, then comes back in your life, she knows what it is, man. She knows she ain't getting no sort of commitment ever, like literally ever from me. Business meetings only, and that's the way it should be. Now, as I said before, a lot of your text game is probably bad, and that can actually fix a lot of your problems with women. That's why in this video, I teach you the best way to flirt with women over text. So be sure to watch that one next.